How is it going today? Lord, let's come on, Dwayne.
My name's Jazz.
We're Dwayne and Jazz. We had our anniversary yesterday.
Yes, we
so I'm sorry that we haven't been posting so much.
And my family was coming over, and we're family.
And there's just a lot going on. But anyway, we're gonna finish what we started. 12 Horror Stories animated compilation of September 2019. It's been 5 years. Continue. Yeah, it's been 5 years. That's crazy.
What?
That's been 5 years.
Oh, for our anniversary.
Yeah, anniversary.
You said that in the middle of this.
I'm sorry, because I didn't realize. I knew it was 5 years, but then I just realized. And then the other thing is that we've been on YouTube for 3 years. About to be 4 next year. So that's crazy.
I know.
Our YouTube career is almost as long as our relationship.
It's 2 years.
2 years. 2
less.
years. 2 years left.
So.
Yeah. Anyway, let's dive into it.
True pool horror story. Oh, I think everybody has that. They're scared of swimming.
I was at my friend's family pool party, and there were tons of people there. At one point, while my friend, let's call her Lily, went to get some sodas for us, a man came up to me.
Okay.
I didn't recognize him, but since it was my friend's party, it made sense for me to not know everyone there. He smiled at me. He looked as though he hadn't shaved in days.
I don't like his face.
His eyes never looked quite directly at me. I stepped backwards, feeling uncomfortable.
And he stepped forward.
Hello, he said. Hi, I replied. What's your name? He asked. I supposed that a first name wouldn't hurt, seeing as we were surrounded by tons of people
fake
in
one.
my friend's backyard.
Jasmine had fake names.
I'm Carly, I said. What's yours? Rick, he replied smoothly. Are you having fun with Lily? Some of my discomfort eased.
Yes.
I'm her parents' friend. He continued, stepping closer to my face. His eyes weren't focused, and his breath smelled like alcohol, though it was early in the day. I grew even more uncomfortable and stepped away, waving goodbye awkwardly.
He said, hey girl, stop playing hard to get. Let me stop.
He was gone. I told Lily about this, and she mentioned it to her parents. Her parents
Like,
didn't know Rick, which kind of freaked me out.
So it was a stranger.
But they told me that it could have been one of their friends who brought him over. So I shrugged it off and assumed everything was fine.
Okay.
After the party ended, Lily and I were having a sleepover at her house. Her parents had gone over to visit her elder sister to take some leftovers to her, since she had not been feeling well and couldn't attend the party. So we were home alone
This means
with
gonna
her
make his
elder
move.
brother.
The older brother's there.
Lily and I were playing a game in her bedroom when her dad called her. He asked her to please go and turn off the pool lights, since he had forgotten. Lily agreed, and we stepped outside into the backyard.
Okay.
I waited on the back
Y'all got a big
porch,
house.
reading a text from another friend, while she went to turn off the lights. Once she was finished, we stepped back inside, locking the door, and went back upstairs to continue playing our game. At one point, Lily asked me to make sure the curtains were closed properly, and when I did, I happened to look outside, and I noticed that all the pool lights were on again. Lily? I asked, getting a strange feeling. You turned off the pool lights, right? Yeah, I did.
I'll be like, you was out there with me.
Coming to look.
Right.
Now there was a figure swimming laps in the pool, even though we couldn't see his face. It's probably just Cody, Lily replied, speaking
They
of
too
her brother.
lax.
Come on, let's go scare him.
A what?
We walked down to the pool and slid open the back door.
Okay, he gonna end up
Waiting
scaring
behind the
you.
bushes, we could see the top of his head bobbing in the water. We were going to jump out and scare him at any moment. Then I looked up at one of the windows of the house. The curtains were open. Suddenly, I saw the face of Cody illuminated as he turned on his bedroom lights. I grasped Lily's arm.
Like, let's
and
go.
We both knew the person in the pool was not, in fact, Cody. We hadn't brought our phones with us in case we would get wet. And if we ran back around, there was a chance the stranger could see us before we got back to the house.
So he's just gonna sit there?
I tried to wave to Cody, but he couldn't see us. Suddenly, splashing in the pool stopped. My heart dropped and I could hear each of my panicked heartbeats. A hand suddenly gripped my arm and flung me forward, and I screamed, and Lily did as well. I looked up, and there was Rick. His facial expression I will never forget.
Oh no.
I've never seen someone with such a creepy smile. I yelled.
Fight him.
And soon my mouth was filled with water as he chucked me in the pool.
Friend, hello?
He held me underwater. I choked for breath and realized he
Is she gonna like jump on his back or something? Like, come on.
She wasn't in the water. He was strong and clearly ill. He yelled, "Time to swim!" Somehow we managed to kick him in the face hard enough to run away, slamming the door.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
He continued to hold
Oh, so she ran away.
laughing as I flailed for breath. Just as
I'll be
I
still
felt I was about to
wailing
die,
on him.
police sirens were heard on the surface. Picked me up and threw me on the ground, breaking my arm. He ran away.
Dad, gone.
The police came and questioned me, but he was never found.
Wow.
Oh my
I will never
god.
forget that moment.
Now she's gonna be
I was
traumatized
truly
with
going to
pools
die.
now.
Nor will I forget those creepy, unfocused eyes. From then on, I've been terrified to be outside at night, especially in a pool.
Goodness. If I was a friend, I would have been beating that man up, especially if his back is turned and you got
Yeah.
my friend in there. I'm getting on your back and I'm
Yeah.
punching you.
midweek,
Yeah.
so the roads were quiet. As I was driving downhill, I heard a sound that was like a jet engine roaring behind me. The next thing I know,
Okay.
a car goes flying past me going twice the speed
Believable.
limit.
Yeah. You have a friend named
Like a
Ryan.
very old and crappy car. And the car started to get the speed wobbles. And then one of the
Speed
tires
wobbles.
came flying off
Oh.
and rolled at high speeds downhill while the car spun out and crashed.
Ooh! You should have slowed down.
I stopped my car to make sure whoever was inside was okay. A guy got out of the car and looked over at me and then started moving extremely quickly towards me.
Oh,
Oh,
what
no,
the
no,
hell?
no, no.
I don't
No.
know why, but I hit my internal locks on the car.
There you go.
Which was fortunate, because no more than 2 seconds later, the guy started grabbing at the driver's
Yeah,
side
see?
door and smashing on my windscreen
might be
with his
trying to
fists
GTA.
trying to get in. I'll never forget the look he had in his eyes. I put my foot down on the accelerator and drove off back home.
He just fell out.
I decided to swap cars once I got home and drove back to see what was going on.
Why? Why are
I
you
saw
going
2
back?
fire trucks
Oh
and
my
about
God.
4 police close to where the incident happened.
Why?
When I got back to the crash site, the guy was no longer there,
Of course
so
he wasn't.
I decided to head home. The next day at work, I was online and bored reading the news when I saw an article that shocked me. The article was about a guy who had been in a police chase for 1 hour.
Wow.
Dang.
Police
God.
stopped chasing him because it was becoming too
An
dangerous.
hour?
Turns out the guy was high on meth, had stolen a car an hour's drive away, and had been in a hot pursuit since. After crashing the car, the guy apparently crossed to the other side of the road and hailed the first car that
This is
appeared,
like cops.
which was a taxi.
Oh, goodness.
He got into the taxi and stole it.
I don't
In
know
the
why they be
process,
stopping.
He pushed the driver out of the driver's side door.
The GTA.
Like I said,
Stuck in ragged
GTA.
speeds. The driver died from the incident. I called the police and had a detective assigned to me. He fingerprint checked my car and got a statement. I had to testify in the Supreme Court as a
Hey.
key witness in a murder trial. The guy got 30 years, and they told me that my testimony was one of the main factors in convicting him.
Oh, no.
It needs to
I
be
often
longer.
think back to that night and wonder if I hadn't locked my doors, would I have been the one who got murdered?
But see, you shouldn't have gone back, though.
I mean, he switched cars though, so that was kind of.
My name is Milo.
You switched cars,
I'm 14
but
years old.
you went
but
back?
this happened about a year ago. One day, I was having a sleepover with my 2 best friends, Ben and Michael, to celebrate Ben's birthday. Ben wanted to go camping and have a bonfire, so we all set up our tents for a fun night. When we set everything up, we talked about the usual teenage boy stuff. Sports, cars, and girls.
Girls, yeah.
As the night progressed, Ben began to tell us about a man from our town who was on the run from the police. He said that the man lurked around in the darkness and kidnapped teenage boys.
Oh, that's good.
He
Since we're
grabbed you
out
by
here.
the legs and dragged you through the forest while looking for more kids to prey on, Ben
He's
said.
it?
We all burst out with laughter at how ridiculous it sounded.
Oh, he's listening.
yeah.
Like
Okay.
that would ever happen in our
He's
town,
listening.
right? At least that's what we thought. We all started to feel sleepy and decided to call it a night.
Okay.
During the middle of the night, I got out of my tent to use the bathroom on one of the trees nearby. But when I was done, I looked back to see a man warming his hands on our fire, and 3 small, dark figures hid behind him, each looking like a starved child.
Oh no.
I screamed in fear, waking my friends who freaked out when they saw him. We sprinted out of the forest.
Like he's just chilling on the outside.
But
Right.
nobody in town believed us. When it was light outside the next morning, we went back to the forest to collect our gear and go home. Everything
They
was
took
there,
Oh.
but a note was left on the ground. It read, "Grabs you by the legs and drags you," with a smiley face drawn at the end. We alerted the police and
See,
never went
playing.
back to that forest again.
That one wasn't that bad. He was just sitting there camping.
Answer do I not answer people
About
that
10
you don't
years
know?
ago when I was 12, I would always go into the nearby woods with my friends for most of the day.
There you go again.
One night, we left pretty late. Usually I got home before dark, but today, I knew I wouldn't make it back, and I already knew my parents would be mad at me. We were walking in a group for a few blocks. Then a couple of my friends split from us to go to their house. I started to notice that a van kept driving past us. I didn't think anything of it.
You need to. You need to.
And then my last friend split to go to her house. I had about 5 to 10 minutes left until mine. Then I see that van again, and it pulled up right beside me and stopped.
Run.
The driver rolled down the front window.
Run right now.
Then she told me that she can't find her son, and she's been looking all evening. Then she asked me if I seen him.
Don't
I
trust
looked and I
it.
said no. Then she asked me if I wanted to get in her van to help find him.
No, I
I said
don't.
no again, and I looked forward. Then she asked me, am I sure?
What you mean, am I
I didn't
sure?
answer, and
I don't know
started to walk
you.
faster. Then all of a sudden, there was some guy in her back seat that said, "Mr. Fucking Snatcher." I looked at the van for a split second as the woman looked in the back seat, and she sped up to park on the side of the street.
Oh no.
I started running through yards.
Thank you.
I heard the doors open and shut on the van, but I didn't look back until I got home.
Don't. Just keep going.
Nobody followed me. I told my parents and we called the cops. I never missed curfew after that.
I bet. The man under the street light.
I'm scared of the dark, and I have a good reason for it. You might be thinking, so? Almost everyone is scared of the dark because
Yeah.
something happened to them. Well, that is true for me too. Here's my story.
Okay.
About 2 years ago, I ran away from home. I don't know just what I was thinking at the time, but I left with no food, no water, no belongings,
You have
and
no
no
plan.
coat. It was a very rainy day, and I sensed that I should either find shelter or I'd be soaking wet. So I decided to walk to my school and stay there for a few hours to dry off, as I was already wet and cold on a rainy day. As I arrived, I laid down my head and quickly fell asleep. And when I woke up, it was pitch black outside, and I could barely make out anything. I didn't have a watch or anything that tells the time, so I assumed it was midnight. At least it stopped raining, I thought. I decided to just go back home, as I wasn't far and I was very hungry that time.
He's just having a fit.
As I got up,
Talk to
I
himself.
stopped. There was something in front of me, under a streetlight, about 50 yards away.
Is that a suit?
It was a man about
Right.
6 feet tall,
Oh,
and he
that's
was
not-
wearing a black coat with a hoodie over his face, so I couldn't see his face. At first, I thought it was my dad who had come to look for me, so
no.
I felt relief. But I
Don't
didn't want
walk
to get
up to
into
him.
trouble, so I hid in a bush nearby and peeked out. The man was standing there and looked around for what it seemed like a half an hour. Then, under the light of the streetlight, he pulled something out of his pocket.
Drugs.
I couldn't make it out at first, but
Why?
then I
You
realized
probably
it was a
didn't deal.
kitchen knife.
Oh.
Never. That don't look like no drug to me.
Never mind. Never mind.
Then he started to run toward the bushes.
What the?
Towards me. Exactly. I grew frightened and sprinted out of the bushes like an arrow.
Hell no.
I was there. I didn't stop running until I got home without ever looking back.
There you go.
So I survived. But to this day, I still wonder what would have happened if I didn't run on that day. Or worse, what would have happened if I didn't wake up at the school?
So that's why you stay home.
I developed my fear of the dark from this incident.
It's kind of
It's so bad that
self-caused.
now I have to sleep with a nightlight or the hallway light occasionally. Because I'm afraid that the man whom I saw will kill me or kidnap me someday if I don't turn the light on.
But see, that can happen anywhere.
Yeah, but as a kid, that'd be scary and
Yeah.
traumatizing. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was attacked by a psycho in the alley.
This fact
Just like
happened
that.
when I was 15 years old. Beginning of last year, 2018, when I finally
That's
got to
recent.
sophomore year here in Brazil.
Okay.
Ooh,
It
Brazil.
was an ordinary Friday night. Suddenly I felt a little bit hungry, so I decided to put on some clothes and go to the snack bar. It was barely 10 minutes from my house. I usually pass through the alley to go to the snack bar, but that time everything was so
dark.
creepy in there.
Yeah.
When I was halfway there, it was dark, empty, abnormally cold and gloomy. I felt slightly intimidated, but there was nothing there that could really harm me. So I decided to just go through that alley. Then I thought, nothing's gonna happen.
No.
I kept going until I suddenly heard something weird on the other side of the alley. There was a man in there, staring at the walls in hunchback
Turn
stance.
around.
All right, yeah.
Around.
Weirdly. I found that incredibly creepy.
But you decided to
But
keep
I was
going.
nearly at the snack bar,
Yeah.
so all I needed was just to get out of that alley.
He said, I want to turn
Walk
around.
1 minute
but
more and
He's
I
fat.
It's right
get
there.
Right, with the
instead
snacks.
of making it all the way home with empty hands. Thus, I decided to
Okay.
ignore him and pass through after all.
He gonna turn around and be like,
I finally passed through him. He turned to me and stared at me with a creepy smile, which made me walk a little bit faster, trying to avoid him. Then, suddenly, I heard a grunt and quick steps behind me.
yep.
When I looked back, it was him. We were barely 2
Resident
feet
Evil
away
or
from each
something.
other.
Right.
He had a kitchen knife in his right hand
What is up
and
with him
jumped
having
on me with
kitchen knife?
amazing speed and tried to stab me.
What the?
To grab both of his arms before he could get me. However, since he was charging at me, he still had more energy to push me back and force me against the wall.
Oh my god.
I was terrified with all of that. I knew I would die if I didn't fight back. Back then, I was already trained in some martial arts to
Ooh.
defend myself.
Oh,
Use it.
so-
That I thought I'd never need to use that skill to
Happen to
defend
your
my
power.
life. Until now.
Until now.
So, in a sudden burst
Sweep
of
the leg.
adrenaline, I managed to twist the wrist which he was holding the knife, kicking his stomach,
There you
punching
go.
him mercilessly in the face several times. In the end,
There
his
you go.
face was bleeding so much, but his body was ignoring the pain of the blows in his
Adrenaline.
He's
body
on PCP.
and only focusing on killing me. Finally, I used a training that I took before to twist both of his wrists and elbows harshly at the same time, forced in 2 different directions, and kicked the backside of his leg, putting him to the ground until ultimately he could drop the knife. It wasn't easy because he was struggling and punching my back and somehow trying to jump on me.
Yikes.
But since I had his arm under my grasp, he couldn't do much without breaking himself. I slammed his head in the concrete ground, stunning him. Then kept striking his face desperately while kneeling over his arm so he
Dang.
wouldn't be able to react or reach his knife again.
Jesus.
Then finally, he was out cold.
How many hits did
bleeding
he
a lot.
take?
Right. I
My
don't know.
knuckles were full of blood and hurt. So I got up, took his knife, throwing it far away from there, and ran away from him.
He still went to go get that food.
I
didn't
finally
he?
got to the
Yep,
snack bar.
He did.
Washed my hands in there and
Of
did
course.
everything I had to do before going back home. But obviously,
So it's not
I
stopping
didn't
my
take the
food
same
run.
path as I did before. But there were things that got much creepier. That was at the entrance of my apartment, where I heard screams coming from the other side of the street.
Ooh.
It was the same crazy
Oh my
man.
god.
Now, seeming like he was possessed by a demon, and he was slamming his head on the iron door of my building's entrance. His face was horribly deformed and scarred from our fight. That
Black
freaked me
eye.
out completely. My parents were on a trip, and the watchman of our building was on vacation.
Oh.
No
I
backup?
wasn't going to fight
Oh
that
my
man
God.
again. So I decided to rush to my girlfriend's house.
Okay.
When I got there, she was home alone. She looked worried because I was looking pale, and there were still some marks of the man's blood on my clothes. I explained everything to her, and we called the police to come by my building. And when they arrived, the man was still in the entrance trying to force the doors unsuccessfully.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy.
When he saw the police, he attacked them, but got quickly dominated by the cops. They explained that he was probably a crazy psycho in the streets looking for prey to rape, kill, or do anything he wanted to the person.
Oh my god.
So they sent him to a high-security mental asylum for criminals, far away from my house.
Good.
I feel so lucky that I survived that day, and I'm hoping that I will never see that man again.
He should have probably just went to the girlfriend's house first. Like, hey, you got some snacks?
Someone beside me while I was sleeping.
When I was 10 or 11, my cousin and aunt visited us. We had fun throughout the day, and my aunt and cousin decided to sleep at my other aunt's house before leaving early in the morning. After such a fun day, I insisted upon sleeping at my aunt's house too, so I could spend more time with everyone. Later that night, we all fell asleep in the guest room, the only room that was available for us. I woke up suddenly at 5 a.m. I heard my mom and other aunt talking, so I was definitely awake. I saw that my cousin and aunt's things weren't there anymore, so I assumed they'd already left. I was about to fall back asleep. I looked at my left and saw someone sleeping beside me. I was about to hug her, thinking it was my 21-year-old girl cousin. But then I saw her face. She wasn't my cousin at all. She was someone I didn't know. But she looked about the age of my cousin. She wore pajamas and a black shirt, and all I could do was stare at her. She started doing strange things, like stretching her legs up and down.
Okay.
Focusing on the ceiling. It was all so odd. But feeling tired, I eventually drifted off to sleep. Nothing had happened.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
God.
You see her
You mean there's a
contorting
whole
her body, right?
exorcism girl contorting her body next to you? You said that's pretty cool.
I'm too tired.
Right. Go back to sleep.
I'm too tired.
No, get up. Like what?
Got up at 8 a.m., looking at my left, and she was gone. I told everything to my mom and every family member in the house, but no one knew what I had experienced or who the girl was. My dad told me that my third eye was starting to see more.
Excuse me?
But I didn't really believe that.
Your dad knows something.
Right.
And that experience still remains a mystery to me. It never happened to me again, and hopefully it won't.
Your dad knows something. He said your third eye.
Your third eye is
Hi,
open.
my name is Adil, and this is a true story. The police had finished this case, and the man is in prison now. I was 14 at the time this took place. I was in a school and sitting in a history lesson that was so boring.
I know.
My friend Noel, who was sitting opposite me, said I could come over on Saturday, as his parents were not going to be there because they were going on a weekend away. That meant we could stay up as long as we wanted.
Okay.
This was not uncommon,
He's like,
as we both invited each other to stay at one another's house, and I thought we were going to have a great time. Saturday came and I was so ready. I packed my essentials like my toothbrush, my new game, and my pepper spray.
Food.
Pepper
My
spray.
parents always made me carry it, and I didn't mind because it made me feel safe too. I went on my way, and 30 minutes later, after walking, arrived to Noel's house. As he opened the door, he looked a little tense and shifty. I walked in and locked the door after me, to which he became even more anxious.
Why?
I asked him if everything was all right, and he said it was. Not trying to put it down on the evening, I asked him if we could play the new game I bought. He wasn't really interested, but said yes anyway. After 30 minutes of watching him not playing and just holding the controller in his hand, I switched off the TV and asked him what was going on.
What's up?
To which he replied, "I need your help." I asked him what he needed my help for.
Okay.
He told me that this man who added him on Facebook was actually stalking him in real life, and as to how he wanted to meet Noel.
What?
He warned him that if he told his parents, he would kill them. So Noel, being the stupid idiot, he told him to come at 8 p.m.
Oh my God.
5 minutes from now.
Yo.
He was scared, so he asked me to come to this meeting to get rid of him. And that if he had told me at school, I never would have agreed to come. He was right. I felt betrayed that he brought me here under false pretenses.
Yep.
I was
now
also
you got me
angry at
here
his
with a
stupidity of
potential
him
killer.
giving his address away as well. However, I had no time to argue.
Oh.
I was just glad he told me about this guy.
I'm cussing you out.
I grabbed my
cussing you
pepper
out.
spray and just sat there on the couch.
Ready.
The doorbell rang at
Like
8
a
p.m.
parent.
I just sat there
Like a
hoping
parent
he
who
would
you know
leave
you're in
after
trouble,
a little.
right?
However, then I started to hear scratching and realized he was breaking in with some sort of tool. I quickly ran into the kitchen with Noel, and we heard the door lock get broken, and someone kicked the door in. The lights were on, and we were hiding behind the large fridge. The man, in a deep voice, shouted, "Noel!" We didn't reply. And then he shouted, "Noel, where the heck are you? I'm going to kill you." I had a plan. At this point, I pushed Noel out from behind the fridge. Noel started going back, and the man was walking forward, chuckling. As soon as he came near the distance of the fridge, I shot out and sprayed pepper spray in his eyes. He screamed in pain and then started swinging the screwdriver in his hand. I grabbed the screwdriver and picked up a pan laying there and hit him on the head. He blacked out. He was dressed in a smart suit and was clean shaven. We called the police and later found out that he was a man who was being monitored because there were several complaints of stalking and threatening behavior. They also found many tools in a bag he left near the door that would dismember a body.
Ooh.
Thankfully, this sicko didn't kill anyone. However, I'm now happy that Noel called me because I dread to think what would have happened if I wasn't there.
Yo.
He said, I have a plan. Then you just pushed him.
He said, you brought me into this situation.
Right.
He said, look, here you go, killer. This is what you want.
Yeah, I'm like, yo. Heck
I guess that was
no.
payback for making him come there.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yo.
That's crazy. I would be so mad. I would be so mad.
He said, I have a plan.
So,
And then
so what's the plan? You.
I'm going home. I shouldn't have been here the first time.
Right.
Hey, oh my god, those were good. Those were really good. I'm glad we finished it. Anyway, guys, comment below. Let us know what you think.
It's like,
Subscribe to
share.
some more. Deuces.